the answer is not outside of us. The answer is not first outside of us. The answer is first to focus on growing ourselves. And so I started gradually realizing like a great life doesn't start with doing, it starts with becoming. Like you have to start with choosing to focus on and ultra prioritize who you actually want to become. And most people don't even know what that means. I didn't before. It's a journey even to discover what that actually means. But that was kind of the big aha moment for me.
Emerge Coaches Interview is a series focused on showcasing the expertise, process, and methodology of exceptional coaches or vetted individuals who are experts in various aspects of life. Our mission is to empower all of you who may be struggling in life by demonstrating that help is readily available. We want to serve as a bridge, connecting those in need with skilled coaches who can offer effective strategies and proven techniques for personal growth and transformation. By showcasing the success stories and insight of these exceptional coaches, we aim to convey the message that regardless of the challenges you may face, there are always ways to overcome and emerge stronger. All right, finally, I'm here sitting and gonna be putting you in the hot seat. I've been waiting for this time to actually grill you into asking some question that I think our audiences are also curious to know. Like, you live here in the Philippines for, was it over 10 years now?
Not quite 10.
Not quite 10. And I just want to ask, like, before we dive into like what brought you here in the Philippines, I just want to go directly to this question of what are some of the qualities that you appreciate about the people here in Philippines?
Many qualities. My son is 18 and he was 8 when we moved here, and he's a super intelligent, highly analytical. He tends to be pretty critical as well. And it's been interesting as he observes the way he sees the world, and he looks at a lot of countries that he wants to spend time in, and like he wants to spend time in Northern Europe and a lot of different places that he wants to be, but it's a little bit unusual for him to vocally praise anyone or anything. But he has, I think it was a few months ago, he said something like, I don't think you realize, I think he went to the US and he came back. I think that's what it was. And he said, I don't think you realize how amazingly friendly people are here. So, I mean, that one's obvious, right? Everybody knows Filipinos are just very friendly, generally speaking. I think Filipinos don't realize their advantages in kind of their characteristics and of course, you grow up in a country where you primarily understand English really, really well. Most people speak it reasonably well. There's a lot of advantages, but I just see a ton of potential in people because growing up, especially younger generations, I think people 20s and 30s, teens, 20s and 30s, but especially like millennials, Gen Z, there's a lot of people in this country who have been growing up with more and more access to YouTube and all kinds of amazing content around the world, and they really digest it super well. And there's like people in other countries that don't, because their English comprehension might not be as good. So, okay, these are advantages, but I'm not really saying what I love about Filipinos yet. The things that I generally love is that I find a lot of people here who are thirsty to learn. People are, by and large, pretty open. It's like you don't think people here are that open-minded, but because it's not really socially acceptable to be so open-minded. But I actually feel like there are a lot of people who want to grow and learn. People who are not know-it-alls. Like a lot of people in Western countries kind of are trying to prove themselves to be smart or showing off what they've achieved, or it's kind of like there's this, trying to show. And then people here just generally aren't so much like that. They're more, I don't know if humble is really the best word, but they're just a little bit more real, I think, and just open to ideas from other people. Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah.
for me personally, we like asking people for anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's also one of the reasons that if someone comes here, especially if it's a, foreign guy, foreign person, we just automatically assume that they know better, and we're very open to learning from them, to hearing them, listening to them. And it's so nice that it's not just you but your son also actually appreciate the friendliness of the people here. And I was supposed to ask you, like, what do you think are the advantage of the people here in the Philippines? And I love that you pointed it out, because a lot of people here only notice and see how disadvantaged they are being in the Philippines, feeling like they're a third world country, when in fact there are actually things that works in our advantage, such as the things that you already mentioned. Are there any things that you can think of that you see as an advantage for Filipinos?
Yeah, I think this country's growing and developing, and there's a lot of entrepreneurial innovation happening here. So when you look at the way innovation happens, it might happen first in San Francisco, or like certain places that lead innovation. Maybe in Asia it might be Singapore or China, but you can kind of predict that similar trends are going to happen. They'll lag behind, right? But there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for people to be more entrepreneurial here, and it's happening. Like, I see a lot of younger people creating, for example, this is kind of a silly one, but Taiwan is really known for food innovation, right? The Philippines has not been, but now I'm seeing it. Now I'm starting to see that people. I saw it over the last 10 years, where, let's say, supermercado in Cebu, or places in Manila, where people try to get creative with food, but the market wasn't interested yet. But now we're starting to see, like, the middle class in their 20s are like they're getting more adventurous, they're exploring, they're more interested in variety, not just the same. So I finally see, like supermercado and IT Park in Cebu, like, finally the innovation started to stick. It's just food, right? But it's an example, I think, of, I think there's a lot of opportunity here, and people, a lot of times you hear people talk about brain drain and all the best and smartest people leave, but I don't think that's really true. It's true to some extent, but it's not totally true. And there's a lot of people who are choosing to stay here and make this place better, instead of just going abroad for a better paycheck or more opportunity. They see that there's still opportunity here. And there's also just a ton of opportunity to fill gaps. There are a lot of social challenges, a lot of ways of thinking that are just very behind, which is okay, but that's just actually opportunity. That's opportunity to help people learn and help people, evolve and change.
Speaking of opportunity, well, first, thank you for pointing that out, because it's so easy to not notice those kind of advantages that is actually emerging here in the Philippines, because we're always just focused on what's lacking. And I really hope that I do want to believe that that's happening. I've seen that happen, and I want to focus on those things that are, heading towards that direction of really progress and growth here in the Philippines. And I'm curious, like, what is the reason for you to decide to actually live here in the Philippines?
It was kind of a gradual decision. I came here for about a month in 2013, and at that point, I had a specific business opportunity that led me to decide to come here for a year. I kind of figured it wouldn't be just a year, but that business opportunity didn't work out after only 1 or 2 years. But when I started realizing that it wasn't working out, I just didn't want to go back, because it felt like I was not missing the complaining attitude of Americans, and just like I didn't want to go back yet. And I was enjoying learning this place and having a lot of adventures, but also just meeting so many people and being excited about the potential of the people that I was meeting, and just making a lot of friends. So along the way, it was actually really challenging to stay here, because I didn't have didn't have a job. I didn't have a business that was going to allow me, give me income to be able to stay here. So I had nothing for a year, and I was taking care of my family, and it was really, really tough. But I think I ended up just staying here primarily because of how many people at that time, mostly in Cebu at that time, that I really cared about and believed in, and yeah, just was really enjoying it here. So just stayed, and then found ways to contribute, I think, and still haven't done that to the level that I want, but yeah.
That's nice. Like, so it's basically the people that held you captive that, actually inspires you to stay here in the Philippines. Like, what are those specific, quality of people here that really, made you decide, oh, this is the place that keep you stay longer?
I don't think there was ever like a day where I just said, okay, I'm gonna, I wasn't checking in every 2 months and saying, am I gonna leave? Am I gonna stay? It just kind of became home. And yeah, I've just been happy, and I've always had lots of friends, and yeah, so many friends. I would say actually, like, here's the real answer. In probably 2016 or 17, after I'd been here maybe a year and a half or 2 years, is when I got more and more intentional and focused on finding people who were already taking ownership of their own growth. I was asking myself, right around the time I moved here and the year after, I was meeting a lot of people. The business that I was in, I was just meeting a lot of people, and I was trying to kind of grow a team. And I met so many people I saw a lot of potential in, and I wanted to help people grow. But a lot of times when I would put effort into trying to help someone grow and maybe reach more of their potential, I would get frustrated because sometimes people wouldn't respond readily to that. So I kept noticing, like, I finally realized, like, I'm pushing individuals to try to grow themselves, and they just resist and move away, and it doesn't work. And then people end up feeling bad about themselves because you want them to take action, you want them to start kind of intentionally growing, and then they feel somehow like they're not doing the right thing, and it actually doesn't work. You can't make somebody else get on a path of self-development, right? So I finally started asking myself, okay, I want to help people, I want to contribute, I want to inspire people, but I can't do that with everyone, and the people that I'm sometimes choosing, they're not ready. So I just decided, like, what do I need to look for in people? And I started looking very specifically for people who are somehow just very, not just open, but actively pursuing something in their lives to grow themselves. Like, you get in this phase of life, some people do at some periods where you can kind of just tell, they're looking. Like people that join Toastmasters, I started finding people there that are intentionally seeking uncomfortable things like public speaking so that they can grow. And that's, I think, to be honest, I don't know what it would have been like. I have no idea because I never tried this anywhere else. I don't know what it would have been like somewhere else if I had gotten, and maybe someday I will get a chance to also live somewhere else, and I will still look for those kind of people. I don't know if I would have found as many somewhere else, but I found a lot here. And I think, being surrounded by people who are doing that, like, it's fun, it's exciting for me. And they're amazing people because you get to see, I think seeing people grow is one of the most rewarding things in this experience of being humans. If you can see someone else develop their potential and know that even if it was just one word or one book you gave them or just believing in them somehow helped them a little bit, that's just a really magical feeling. So I think that's been at the core of why I've stayed here, not even really thought about going anywhere else, because I have so many people that I'm generally surrounded by people that I am helping in some way, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's really a good feeling when you're able to affect someone's life in a positive way. Like even just as simple as having a conversation with them, you're able to give them sort of advice that they were able to take away. Like I've learned so much from you, even from our first meeting, though part of it is I feel like there's this defensiveness of like, I don't think not putting my kids in school is a good idea because you were homeschooled, your kids were not basically homeschooled as well. So we got into the topic, but you have a very solid, what do you call that, statements or arguments that I was able to reflect on and was able to ask myself. And I think those were actually powerful. You just don't know how much a simple conversation can affect someone's life. And you basically had intentionally did that, gone through, went out, meet people. And it's rare for foreigners, I think, to really, there's few people who would really, surround themselves with Filipinos, because some of the things that I heard other foreigners complain is that when you're around Filipinos, they would speak in Bisaya and you feel like out of place. Have you felt something like that? Feeling out of place?
Maybe in the very beginning, but not that I really remember. I mean, I think if you go to another country and people are speaking in their own language, that's just to be expected. And generally speaking, I think most of the people that I've spent time around have typically used English, so much so that it's really hard to learn the language because you don't get, people don't, you don't need to learn the language really because people understand you always, and most of the time they go into English when they're around you. So if people are complaining that people are always talking in Bisaya around them, maybe it's because they're talking about them. I don't know.
Maybe that's what they're projecting.
Yeah, maybe it's just libak.
Yes, backbiting you. I think you've already talked a little bit of this, but I just want to ask, so what are some of the ways that you actually enjoy helping people here?
I think people anywhere, my favorite ways of helping people would be in reflection. So just being able to listen to someone. I think everything starts with active listening and being able to, which I don't always practice my best listening skills with you, but I think I've learned how to be a pretty good active listener where someone could talk to me about something and share what they're dealing with, what they're stuck with, what they're confused about. And I can listen and not judge and just make it feel like a safe space for them to verbally process what they're going through and ask good questions to understand it more. So I like to kind of help people unpack what they're dealing with and then help them look at it from a different perspective to understand themselves better. Because I think the majority, like really pretty much the vast majority of learning potential in this human experience is actually within us. And but we usually need a guide, because figuring out how we work alone is almost impossible. Most people are never gonna really succeed with that, and so having someone else to help you navigate how your emotions work, being more aware of the inner dialogue of what you're saying to yourself about yourself and about situations and the assumptions that we're making, the stories that we've filed away that we think are true that really need to be reevaluated. So yeah, kind of coaching on what's going on inside, because just really the majority of all our problems are coming from the lens through which we're looking at the world and the way that we've formed our view of the world. We don't realize how subjective and choosable it is. We think it's just rigid and true, and it's just not the way it is. So helping people, first of all, look inward instead of thinking all their problems are outside of them. And
that's really a powerful way of actually helping people, and I think not everyone would think of it that way. The most common way that they could think of helping people are just giving them money, giving them some relief. But again, that's all just the outside, the physical world, but it may help them get through the day, but then they will have the same problem again next day. So what you're doing is really powerful.
I don't know if I can accept what I'm doing, what I want to do.
I don't know if
I'm really. I can't accept that I'm like doing so much of it, because I actually feel like I'm not. That's actually something I don't feel great about yet. Is I think with Emerge, that's the point of what I've been dreaming of for so long with this is to create something that helps people in a more scalable way. So helping a lot more people to, like, on a social level, on a personal development level, personal growth. I think I've done that 1% at a time here and there through coffee shop conversations. Sometimes I find out years later, somebody tells me, hey, that question you asked me, or that thing, or that book, or that YouTube video you told me about, like, really made a difference for me. Yeah, so I just don't think I can accept the statement, what you're doing, but it's what I want to do.
Now, speaking of Emerge, like, you have this vision of helping a lot of people here in the Philippines to take ownership of their growth and learning. Like, what sparks or what motivates you to actually start that or have that vision?
Yeah, I'm happy to tell that story, and I think if we can, I'd like to try to connect it back to what we were just talking about the mistake that the vast majority of humans, the mistake that almost everybody is almost always making, which is to believe that our problems and our dreams and, like, everything that we want is attainable through either, basically, we're just looking at our situation, we're looking at what do we need to do to have the life we want, and sometimes we feel really stuck. We just tell ourselves we can't. It's really all about recognizing. So my own journey was one where I had big dreams and I had beliefs that I could create. I could be super successful. I could have lots of money. I could be, because I always knew I was smart, and I thought, well, if I'm smart and I just worked really hard, I would eventually definitely become successful, right? And I had these dreams, and I had freedom that I wanted to create for me, for my family, and those things did. I had some success in business. I created businesses that, millions in revenue. I sold those businesses, but ultimately I was actually not happy. I was not healthy. I was really actually not reaching the kind of freedom and the kind of success that I thought I should have by then. And what I finally realized fairly gradually in my late 30s was that I had been really spending at least a decade and a half just focusing on what I wanted to have and what I needed to do in the outside world to create it. And it didn't work. And what I realized way too late was that I had been completely failing to ask myself, who do I actually want to become? Like, do I like myself? Do I have any idea what would happen if I asked that question? If I ask that question and then I decide, no, there's like a lot about me that I need to improve, how would I even go about doing it? I have no idea. I had no idea. And so in my late 30s and early 40s, even while I was here, deciding that, realizing more and more as I started to learn about how we work, like looking inward, I started realizing if I wanted the kind of life that I was dreaming of, I actually needed to never mind all about them making money, even though I had none at the time. I was stuck here. I had no money. I was making so little. It was ridiculous. We were living so cheap and so, like really basic. And I decided not to get a job, not to focus on money. I decided to triple down on just growing myself because I felt like I was just way behind on that. And so to answer your actual question, regardless of what we think about the circumstances that we're in, if we think we can or we think we can't, the answer is not outside of us. The answer is not first outside of us. The answer is first to focus on growing ourselves. And so I started gradually realizing, like, a great life doesn't start with doing, it starts with becoming. Like, you have to start with choosing to focus on and ultra prioritize who you actually want to become. And most people don't even know what that means. I didn't before. It's a journey even to discover what that actually means. But that was kind of the big aha moment for me. And then I'm in this journey of choosing to grow myself instead of, chase the usual kind of success that everybody, that society, culture kind of shows us that we should chase. And then I'm here and I'm meeting a lot of people, right? And I'm feeling amazing about the realizations that I'm having, because I'm like, oh my God, this is life. Like, this is the feeling of growing, the feeling of learning, the feeling of progressing, and kind of peeling off the layers of an onion to understand, like, dig deeper into yourself and realize, oh my God, there's so much to do. So much work to do, so much actual pain actually to go through, discomfort, but so much incredible good feeling available just inside of us. And so I'm meeting all these people, and I have these conversations over coffee and connecting really deeply and kind of emotionally with people, seeing their potential, seeing that they want something, that they maybe in our conversation something is sparked where I can see their eyes start to tear up because they are talking about what they want in life, but then they're also basically telling themselves they can't. They think they're stuck. And over and over and over again, I would share with people that I met some resource that had been really meaningful for me. So it could be a book, could be a clip from a book, could be a YouTube video, could be a podcast, something like that, right? Something that had really inspired me. And I would share with person after person after person, and then I would ask them and say, hey, if this is meaningful for you, will you just let me know what you thought? Mm-hmm. And sometimes people would message me later and they'd say, wow, that was really inspiring. Thank you for sharing it. But there was this pattern that I would see in those comments that people would say back to me. They would say something like, that was really inspiring, but here in the Philippines, here in the Philippines, here in the Philippines. I just kept hearing this phrase over and over again. You hear it every day here. Yeah. People have this idea that it's different here, that it's actually more limited. Mm-hmm. They think that people from the US, people from Europe, whatever, just have it so much better, and that there's so much more opportunity. Okay, and in some ways, yeah, maybe, but it's not all that different. Like, human experience is actually kind of similar everywhere, and the potential that people have here is also like it's a pretty free country. Like, there's a lot of countries that are way less free. Mm-hmm. Capitalism is, there's opportunity, right? You have the potential, but what I kept hearing basically people say is, I can't. You don't understand. I live in this kind of place. I didn't get this kind of education. All these stories that people would be saying to themselves to kind of that they were very convinced that mm-hmm. the upper limit of their potential opportunity is really limited compared. And so therefore, the stories that I was sharing with them from Western, books and I'm talking about people who, let's say somebody started in a gang in the US and then mm-hmm. they broke themselves out, they read books, they surrounded themselves with better people, they completely transformed all of their habits, all of their thinking. That to me is a really powerful story because you don't understand how hard it is to get out of a gang. Like, you're going to get killed, right? It's hard, but it actually doesn't matter if you hear a story and you think that it doesn't relate to you, it's not going to inspire you. Mm-hmm. So I realized that the first step in helping people, okay, let me back up and say one more thing. All of this, everything to do with Emerge is built off of also the realization that we live in a world where we have access to all learning, we have access to all knowledge. Like, every intelligent person that's ever lived, pretty much since we had the ability to write, it's like we have access to it for free all the time. So we can learn anything. And even though people here think you need to have a diploma to get a job, blah, 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 I understand that. It's not necessarily totally true. And we have the potential to grow ourselves and to learn and to evolve so fast because we have access. Everybody has access. And so I realized that to kind of dissolve that I can't story, mm-hmm. you need to hear stories of people that you actually relate with. Because when you do hear a story of somebody you really relate with, like somebody grew up really near you, mm-hmm. and they had a very similar situation or experience to you, right? Then how can you keep telling yourself you can't when they did, right? Somebody got pregnant when they were 14 and they became a really amazing entrepreneur, or they, grew up homeless, or they grew up in a squatter's area and then they totally developed themselves into someone that you listen to and you're like, oh my God, this mm-hmm. person clearly living a very fulfilling life of progress. And they did it through really working on themselves, surrounding themselves with other people. That's critical. You can't do it all alone. It's too hard. So that's why we need also community. And I think in the Philippines right now, there's a lot of people that are starting to see the potential that they can actually take ownership of who they become in the future, which is like taking ownership of also of their whole life experience. And they need to be connected to others who are honest and who have made a similar choice.
That's beautiful. I'm really happy that you've decided to pursue this passion of yours and made a decision of helping people here in the Philippines as well. And I think what we could discuss about is for the next video would be the blockers that really hold people back in growing themselves. Like there are people like you, like us here in Emerge who wants to help people, but if there is that narrative of I can't, there's this, less opportunity here and all of those things, it's hard to see the opportunity when you're being blocked by those limiting beliefs. And I would love to dig deeper in some of those limiting beliefs in our next video and ask you like how could you actually like convince that person that that limiting beliefs or that blocker is not, they can overcome it, especially when it comes to family obligation, fear of other people's opinion. Those are just examples that we will be talking as well in our live streaming video. So I would love to invite all of you for that. Or watch this video that we will be adding here in the thumbnail to learn more of what are the kind of stories that we actually have here in Emerge, and to also connect with people who've went through a life of struggle, who are now living in a fulfilling life, as what Eli said, from living in a squatter area to now being successful, from being pregnant at such a young age and now being able to provide for her family and have her own business. Just those kind of stories. If you want to hear more of those, like check out their channel, check out this video so that you can hear more relatable stories.